Welcome back. I've got Yancy right on the line. Yancy, how are you?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. This is going to be a really good conversation, so people pay attention. I know you always do anyway, but especially this one. This one's going to be good because we're going to go deep into something that we talk about on the show quite a bit, but a different perspective. So why don't you share a little bit about you, Yancy, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Thank you, Michael. I am the owner of a retreat center. It's a leadership and wellness retreat center in Puerto Rico. It's called Casa Alternavida. And how I ended up here is that after having a career burnout, I thought, wouldn't it be great to create a place and space for people like me that were stressed out, overwhelmed, and not sure really how they got there, and gave them an opportunity to reconnect to themselves and to connect to nature and healthy food. At least that's what the original vision was. I also just I'll back up for a second. My career burnout really came about as a result of just working a lot of hours and pushing myself really hard. And probably like a lot of the listeners that have gone through a burnout, I didn't realize I was burning until I was already burnt. And part of that was I love my job so much. I was a leader in the green building industry, helping a lot of high profile companies build their first green building projects. And I did that work for quite a while, but I was so passionate about it and kind of changing the industry and saving the planet and all this stuff that there was never enough time. And I was constantly putting a ton of pressure on myself to do more. And so ultimately, I came to this place that the planet didn't need saved. Actually, it's going to be just fine with or without us humans. So that's how I ended up in Puerto Rico, building a retreat center, and then I've learned a lot along the way of like what is really at the root cause of a lot of stress, overwhelm that results in burnout.
Well, thank you for sharing that journey, excuse me. And the thing that I've seen time and time again, even with my own personal journey with burnout over 15 years ago, is, very similar in that you're doing something you enjoy doing. Because we hear a story about, people that don't like their jobs and they hate it, and I'm burned out and I'm stressed. And yes, that is definitely a situation that many people face. But it also happens to us that absolutely love what we're doing. We go all in. We don't have boundaries around when we work and when we don't. We're thrilled and we're passionate about all of this, and it catches up to us and it starts eating away at us, and we don't even recognize it because we're so mission driven that we forgot about the most important mission, which is to take care of ourselves. And once we do that, all of a sudden, I tell this to people all the time, it's like if you take care of yourself first and make sure that you're the best version of you, then when you do serve, when you do work, when you are in relationships or you're doing anything, the people and companies and customers and clients are going to get such a better version of you. And I think that's the approach that I should have taken many years ago, didn't, learned the lesson the hard way, and then realized, wait, I don't want to do that again. And like in your situation, you recognize, what, I can go about this differently. And um, you know, not only you're still saving the world, but you're saving the world of the people that are in it. So thank you for sharing that. So you walk away from, the work that you were doing, successful career, and decide, okay, let's let's do something differently. And, what was that bridge like between leaving that organization and going into what you're doing now? I'm always curious about that because that transition period for a lot of people is, for many of us, kind of an unknown. And for those of us that are control freaks, that's a polite way of saying, maybe we have OCD, but maybe we like having things, predictable. And all of a sudden we're walking into this unpredictable world, which for many of us, type A personalities, is not a comfortable space. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that journey.
Yeah, really good question. It actually wasn't much of a bridge. I actually ended up in the ICU, having my heart shocked with the defibrillator 3 times, and luckily I'm here now. But what I realized is I wasn't going to really address the issues that were coming up in my life until something almost broke. And so my heart got stuck in atrial fibrillation, and they were worried about me having a stroke. And so they cardioverted my heart. And that, while it seems like in the moment, it seemed like a big shock for me. Like, how did I get here? What do you mean you got to shock my heart? What do you mean it may not restart? What? How did I get here? So that was the wake up call. I also lost my grandmother to cancer and an aunt to cancer 2 months later. And I just started really contemplating like what I was doing and whether it was worth it. I also, after the incident, had a difficult time like walking, going up a flight of stairs for almost 3 or 4 months. It just I was out of breath, and I've been super athletic all my life, and that was another shock for me of like what happened? How's this going to change? Nobody knew what was going on. Doctors didn't know. So it was causing me to question everything and question it in a way where I still wasn't really sure of what my next step was going to be. But then it sort of popped in as a vision when I was trying to get help from an alternative practitioner with my heart issue. And I just had this vision of like creating this space. And so that's been 13 years ago now. The bridge was not very easy in the sense of like jumping into the unknown. That said, the company I worked for was really great to collaborate with. I still had like a 2 year process of phasing myself out, doing work remotely because there are things that I was involved with that nobody else could do. And I also took time to really phase myself out and get my team sorted. That said, what I intended to do here in Puerto Rico got sort of like really challenging. I didn't expect to have two massive hurricanes hit a construction project while I was in the middle of construction. I didn't expect the bank to back out of my construction loan to just say, sorry, we approved your loan, but now that you've already started, we're going to decide not to do it because of the hurricanes. Didn't expect to not have electricity for 11 months. Didn't expect to have prices soar for construction. And then when I finally did got open, I trained a team. We were open a month, and then the pandemic shut us down. So there's been a lot of ups and downs, really challenging whether or not I wanted to do this project. And now that we've been open for 5 years, it's been really eye-opening. Along the way, every challenge created an opening for something new. So, like for example, the hurricane gave me a chance to get into a 2 year leadership and transformation program with the Hendricks Institute and do really deepen my coaching skills. And similarly with other issues, it just opened doors for other things as long as I kind of got out of the issue and got curious. And then working with people over the years, it's been about 5 years now. We've done a lot of solo retreats, deep dive retreats with leaders who are in crisis. And then we've done over 100 team retreats or EO forum retreats, YPO forum retreats, different types of leadership retreats. And over the years, what I've recognized is that a lot of the similar things that I was facing into my burnout are very similar to what people coming here are facing. So it's been refreshing to be able to help those who haven't completely burned out shortcut the process and understand the root cause of a lot of the issues that I wasn't aware of at the time. And it even prompted me to write a book about this process to help people not need to go through the same level that maybe they can catch it earlier on.
You definitely have perseverance, and I think that's a huge, huge thing, because all of those challenges, the pandemic, the hurricanes, the bank went, oh yeah, we're going to give you some money. Oh, by the way, no, we're not. When you're already halfway into it, or what you were already started anyway, and then, bring on staff and all the other things that you have going on. It just one of those things you go, okay, maybe, I'm sure doubt can kick into it. And you're like, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But as you've seen over the last 5 years, that's actually not the case. So it was not that I would say, life tests you, but it does. And I think it's a case of, all right, what are we going to do with this? And again, a good friend of mine, I've had for a long time, likes to say, tragedy creates opportunity. And he's not a morbid guy by any stretch, but he says, okay, this is a challenging situation. What do we do with it? And from there, you're like, okay, well, let's persevere with this. I'll invest in myself. Let's get some additional training. So when we are open, I'll be a better leader for my team and for our clients. And then also too, these experiences. helps you relate with people and meet them, especially when you say, you help leaders in crisis. I would quantify what you went through as a crisis or two or 10. There was a lot there. And I wouldn't wish that upon anybody, but here you are. You got through it. And when you're working with people and you have these retreats and things like that, you get to see transformations and breakthroughs. And that is an ultimate gift for us that gets to see people transform from where they were to where they want to be. And to have a small role in guiding people to take the necessary steps is just a game changer. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks. I think that, one of the things I kept coming to the realization of in my own journey is how quick and easy it is to get ourselves back into similar habits that get us to another potential burnout. And so that was the situation for me after the hurricane and after all these things. I kept getting myself in these situations where super stressed about finances after the bank and all this stuff. So I started digging deeper into what's the root cause of it. And I wanted to talk about like three common root causes that I see that I experience with myself and that I often see with others. One is just, sort of the baseline. People aren't taking care of themselves physically. They're not eating well. They're not getting good sleep. They're not hydrating with amounts of water. They're not exercising. They're not getting out in nature. So that's kind of the baseline. So when people come to our retreat center, that's just what's given. It's all in every daily agenda. The second is really getting into conscious communication of how people are leading themselves. So self-leadership. And self-leadership as it relates to conscious communication, assuming that 90 to 95% of the brain body is operating unconsciously, it's about helping people open up to what they don't know that they don't know about themselves yet. And some common examples would be how strong their inner critic is. Like I had a really strong inner critic, a heavy driver, and really pushing. And then the next level is like, well, where did that come from? And how did it develop? How did your inner critic develop? And who did that? Where was that inner critic style learned from? Most of the time, it's learned from a parent or someone early on when we're young, and we tend to drive ourselves from a different reason. And so that tends to get us to what I call the superhero complex. And that superhero complex is the people pleaser within us that is just striving to achieve, and then asking the deeper question of like, what drives us so hard? You said the word perseverance. What gives me so much perseverance? Some would also call it stubbornness, but I like the word perseverance. Um, but what is behind that? What's the root of that? And what I found is the root of it for me, and this is pretty vulnerable, but the root of it for me was like that's what I learned when I was really young as the only way to receive love. I grew up in a family that my parents divorced when I was two. I experienced a lot of child abuse when I was young. And I noticed that unconsciously, the only way I could receive attention or any form of sort of loving attention is by doing something. And so unconsciously throughout my life, I kept developing myself and developing a career that would try to take on more and more and more, that somehow I would be able to receive enough loving attention that it would be enough. Now, that's outsourcing something that needs to be self-sourced. So I keep coming back to self-leadership as a really primary component for the people we work with, is that self-leadership and unraveling all that unconscious wiring that tends to get us in the burnout in the first place is what's so important. Because the superhero, the inner critic, they'll work together in the background as personas and even prevent us from our self-care. They're the parts of us that prevent us from valuing ourselves enough to say, no, hey, it's time out, time to rest, or hey, it's time to go eat. Hey, it's time to get a full night of sleep. So what I found are those are kind of like the three things. It's the framework that I'll use is around self-leadership and specifically conscious communication, how we communicate with ourselves and how that ripples out to the way we communicate with others. Because the more internal pressure I put on myself, the easier it was for that to ripple out to my teams and put pressure on them that was not very healthy as well. So it's nuanced, it's about subtle energy, but when people are here on retreat and they're able to have that baseline of optimal well-being, and we're taking them out into nature, into the ocean, into the rainforest, and start to challenge them as they amplify their own senses, then it begins to unravel and the aha moments click in. Those breakthroughs that you talk about click in. I've led over, 400 solo retreats and hundreds of group retreats, and those breakthroughs are fascinating. But as a team, we've found ways to help people get to those breakthroughs much quicker in an accelerated way because of the way we're layering the experience. Because again, this isn't just kind of stuff that people figure out in their heads. It's really a full body awareness for those breakthroughs to come through because we're often ignoring what our body's trying to tell us. I know I ignored my body a lot right before the burnout. And so anyway, hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, definitely. And as a reformed people pleaser, as I identify as that, there's a book. There's plenty of them, but there's a book that's like 20, almost 26 years old now. It's called Disease to Please the
Mm.
late Dr. Harriet Breaker. Great book. I highly recommend everybody read that book and your book too. But definitely pick those up because it's it was eye-opening for me, and I've read the book twice. I'm overdue to read it again because in time in life you gain things, and I'm like, okay, there's still some things there that I should be focusing on, and what am I trying to do? Because old habits like to resurrect themselves from time to time, and more often than I'd want them to, but sometimes they do. But as you get more aware, and I think that's a big thing that I see in society today is how unaware people are. And I'm not talking about information, what's going on in the world or anything like that, just with their own being, their own existence. We're walking around in these bodies, and so many of us are just completely blissfully unaware of what's going on. You're an example. You said that. I was an example. I'm a cardiac kid too. I had a heart attack at 40, so because of burnout and stress and not taking care of myself, and obviously don't ever want to go down that path again. It wasn't a whole lot of fun, but for me, it was a situation of okay, I need to start getting a little bit more in tune with the frequency of me. What is that? What's causing things? How do I feel? Do a check-in. As leaders or managers or even frontline employees, we're always checking in with somebody, and we don't check in with ourselves. And I think that's what's so important. And thinking about the retreat aspect of it for a minute, I think what's so beneficial about this, and this is not a sales pitch, but I'll do it anyway. I feel it's important for people to at least explore this type of situation because it removes you from your environment and gets you into nature. Nature is the ultimate healer, in my opinion. Just getting out and getting away from the iBinky. It's my brother's nickname for my iPhone, because I'm always on it like a pacifier. But it's a great device. You can use them anywhere, anytime. But the negative side effect of them is you can use them anywhere at any time. And yeah, we boundaries around those too. You just don't look at screen time. That's an alarming stat for some people, and including myself. But ultimately it's like getting back into nature and reconnecting with realizing how vast the universe is, how vast the world is, nature, sounds, temperatures, feels, sensations, all those things, reconnecting to those helps you in many cases find your center, find the 0 point, find whatever you want to describe it as, so that when you experience challenges in life, and this is not a way to say, okay, you'll never have challenges again. That's unfortunately that's not the situation, but you'll learn more about yourself and how to navigate around them or through them so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish in life. Because we're all here to accomplish things, to serve others, to do some amazing things. And the sooner we can connect to that and do it the best way we can without being detrimental to ourselves, the better it's going to be for all of us. So, love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. really what I notice is as people get a chance to slow down, as they're getting a chance to take care of themselves, and then when we're taking them out in nature, what it does is it expands time. Because the more present we are and in tune with our senses, and like you said, getting back to your center, the more that time expands. What I mean by time expansion is that you might have a typical 8 hour, day, or let's just say a 12-hour day, and it feels like 3 or 4 days, but not in a like busy way, but just in an expansive way. Because when we're present, the more we get present and just in the moment, the quicker it is for all the busy things to drop away. So we're not way out in the future, not dwelling on the past and ruminative thoughts that leads to the anxiety that then gets us to the burnout. And so what you're saying about nature is spot on. And what we tend to do with our guests is quickly get them to that point. Then when they do start to think about their work, they've got fresh perspective. They're able to look at it from a place of like, oh, actually, those things don't really matter that much anymore. That isn't as important as taking care of myself because it's the opposite. Our inner critic or my inner critic would typically say, you're not moving fast enough. There's so much to do. You need to move quicker. But then my mantra now is like, there's plenty of time and everything is going to get done. Because the more that I take and slow myself down, or even if I tell myself I don't have, if I say to myself, I don't have time for a self-care practice, then my promise to myself is to do the opposite, make time for that self-care practice, because then I'm typically 30 to 40% more productive. Like if I take a 10-minute meditation nap, then I'll be far more productive afterwards. So I think that's really part of the key is helping with those mindset shifts to overcome those moments when we start to slip back into the old habits of getting us to that burnout place.
Yeah, we tend to, using the Eisenhower matrix, we think everything's in that urgent and important box, and not likely. Is it important? Well, it depends on the beholder. Is it urgent? No likelihood not, but maybe. It will depend on the situation. But again, if you take care of yourself, you can approach it. And what I find is when I'm relaxed and rested and well nourished and I feel good, that I can see things with clarity. If I'm tired, fatigued, don't feel good, maybe I ate some food that I know is not good for me yesterday and I'm feeling it today. All those things play a big part, and a lot of people don't recognize that. It's like, yes, I would love to crush that pizza, but I have a lactose intolerance, and that's going to make me lethargic and inflamed. And yeah, I'm not going to go into any other details because thankfully it doesn't happen to me, knock on wood, but other people it probably does. It's like you don't want that because you're like, okay, well, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So find the foods that you like that are good for you. Get in nature, learn how to relax, not rest, relax. Because some people, while rest is important too, in full disclaimer, and I tell people this all the time. I highly recommend everybody have a therapist of some sort. I do. Everybody does. There should. And one of the things my therapist said to me a while back, which was truthful but hurt a little bit, was you don't relax or rest, you pause. And that was convicting to me. And I thought, okay, explain. I didn't say explain right away. I kind of went, ooh, my tail hurts a little bit. I'll be right back. And then the next day I'm like, what did you mean by that? And of course he shared what he meant by that. And I'm like, you know me more than I know me. Okay, that's a problem. We got to fix that. But again, it's rest, relaxation is such a great thing for you to do. Not all the time, but harmonize your life. People say work-life balance. I'm more of a harmony person because you're one being. Harmonize it. There's going to be seasons where you're going to be a little bit busier. There's going to be seasons where it may not be, but harmonize that and do whatever you can to be the best version of you. And I think that's why the work you do is so critically important.
Thanks, Michael.
So where can people find out more about you, the retreats, and everything else you're doing?
Great question. So you can go to my website, yancywright.com or casaalternavida.com. That's CASAALTERNAVIDA.com. And if you want to learn more about some of the tools and practices and frameworks, I do have a book called Amplify Your Leadership. It's about uncovering the hidden ripple effects that impact you, your culture, and your outer world. So I appreciate the time that we've had together today, Michael, and your great questions. And hopefully, this information will help other people not get to the place that you and I've been to.
Yeah, that's my hope, and I trust that will be the case. So, Yancy, thank you for being you and for all this amazing work you're doing. I really appreciate your time today.
Take care.